Hi, hello, it is Lorelei, and I just wanted to give you a quick video. This is just on a video that I put up and that at some point I'll take back down, but uh, today is November 30th. Tomorrow's December 1st, 2022. So I do talk kind of fast when it comes to this video, all right? This video is specifically to give you an insight into the ascension process and how sometimes things manifest for me, okay? So I'm going to give you some insights in a way of how I am learning and growing and moving to make connections between what the inner visions are and feelings, perceptions, words, insights that I receive, and how I interact in my world to receive what we might call signs, symbols, connections, right? So I will start by saying that one thing I have learned through my own experience is that it's important for each person to create some kind of meaningful prayer, ritual, routine that connects them with their inner heart, their inner teacher, whatever you want to call it, whatever that center place is. Native American in our healing wheels, we call it the hearth, the center stone. In some of the healing modalities, and especially working with the angels, they have us create healing mandalas. They have us create healing wheels. And some of these wheels we use like a prayer wheel. And if you can imagine, well, I'll tell you this, what comes to me is, so one of the wheels that I use today reminds me of the prayer wheels you might see in Thailand or in other Buddhist country or Buddhist countries. Also Hinduism too. So they have these large prayers that are written out in metal, and they're on cylinders, and people go around and touch them and spin them and spin them and spin them and spin. And so what are they doing? They're creating the vibration of that sound or that mantra going around and around. So this would be like having it in a circle that you put in the center of your wheel, and that's like the engine, or that's like if you were out in the if you're out in nature. Like one thing that I like to do in my backyard is I do have a fire ring, a small fire ring, but it's a fire ring, and so I'll go out there and light a fire, and so that fire will be the starting point. It will be starting the fire with prayer and then ending the fire, closing it. Okay, so A, there's always some kind of a connection. B, there's some kind of closing. And then what happens in between? We want it to be sacred and connected. We become sacred and connected so that the energy that is there is sacred and connected, right? It's a process. So, so today, the other thing I'll say, okay, so I'll say one more thing too, is that, so I have really discovered for me that it's really worth the effort to figure out, what are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What am I generating? What are other people thinking? What are other people doing? What are they generating? Not that I even want to go into what those thoughts are, if I can, because being an empath, so often we are more in tune to what other people are saying or doing, because in the present or in some other experience, we were hurt. And the way that we protected ourselves was to know the intentions and the energies around us, and to do something that would help mitigate that so that we would not get hurt. I can remember doing things and saying things in my home as a kid, always cleaning the house, always cooking dinner, that was my way of making sure that when my parents got home, they weren't upset and like yelling at me or yelling at each other. That they came home from a long day from work. They both traveled fairly far. And to come home and to have a house that was clean, that have a dinner that was started or made, especially when I was a teenager, like I noticed a shift in them. And so I did that, and we call that people-pleasing tendencies, but we also call it survival skills. And so here we are as an adults, here we are this really crazy time in the world. And really, for me, it's this continual process to really be fulfilled from within, to be content within, to know that I can provide for myself in my inner environment, and that anything that I'm experiencing in my outer environment, it's either going to support what it is that I have inside and I'm wanting, or it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be something that's small. It's going to be something that I just kind of move through without taking on, like I just fly through it, okay? But it's a process, and it's staying connected to ourselves. That's a whole process. What am I thinking? What am I doing? How am I breathing? How am I moving through this? Is this a message, or is this a repeated pattern where I limit myself, right? Or habits, like what are the habits that we do that seem like they are not a big deal, but they take away some joy or some light. And so since they're coming to our awareness, it's important that we do something about them, and especially now because we're getting ready for like big energy coming in. We're getting ready for like a big boost. So if you imagine that your house and your home and your heart is your garden, and you want to plant those seeds and you want to get them ready so that they have nice room to be able to grow. So you want to clear the clutter, you want to cut the dirt, you want to give anything away that you're not using to a place where it's going to be useful, not just putting it into a landfill. You put it in the garbage, you may as well be putting it in the landfill. So you do your very best. And when there's a will, there's a way. When you have a vision, there's a way that you will do it. And then you also want to make sure that you have your goals. What are the things that you really want? Not the things you think are achievable, not the things that you made smaller because they just seem too big. Allow yourself this next 30, less than 30 days now, but next 20 days, December 20th, to really, really dare to dream. Dare to allow yourself to dream bigger. Dare yourself to look in the world and see the solutions already in place. Living the solutions in your mind, in your heart, in your world, already in place. Okay, now with that said, we're right at minute 8. Perfect. So what I want to say is I'm going to share something with you that happened today, but I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to give you the exact details because I want to protect people's privacy. But for the sake of learning, when we're doing readings and when we're doing healing sessions and we're just sharing messages or coaching or teaching or parenting or whatever it is we're doing, to get to a place where we can really trust that what is happening are the things that are for our highest good. Okay, so and I'll give you an example. And so the example today, this is real life today. So when I get up in the morning, probably around whenever I start waking up, I don't look at the clock. Sometimes it's 4 o'clock, sometimes it's 5:30, sometimes it's 6:30, but sometime around there, my consciousness wakes up. I'm aware that I'm aware that I'm aware. And before I open my eyes, and I've done this for a long time, it's been different things that I've done, different iterations, different actions. But I start sending this energy, filling myself up with this energy, sending out the colors, sending out the wishes, sending out the desires. And it's not rote. It's very feeling it and sensing it and moving it. And the more and more I'm awake, the more I send the energy to myself. And then I start to my husband, my kids, the pets, the home, our community, our city, all cities, our state, all states, our country, all countries, the world, our planet, all planets, everywhere, and so by the time I get up, I'm just like connected locally, connected globally. So then when I get up, there's what I call the internet, and that's when I have signs and symbols and things that come up. They seem like just random thoughts sometimes. They seem like me talking to myself. Sometimes it's inner guidance that I'm talking to. Like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that today because I'm going to do this. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Do I have to do that? No, I don't have to. Maybe I'll do this. You know, so I'll just say that even when I know that it is a spirit guide, it doesn't matter to me often who it is. What matters is I know that it's been beneficial. I know that it's benevolent energy. I know that so often it is, I'm talking to my I am presence, right? So there's that aspect of it. So really, in my book, it doesn't matter. It does matter that it's good energy. And that matters that you keep flowing with it. And you build a dialogue, you give, you receive, you listen, you take actions. And our point of communicating that we've received a message is acting upon it. It's not enough to hear it. It's a good place to write about it, but then we actually have to do something with it besides that. We have to incorporate that into our lives first and then share that with others. So this morning I woke up and I did this like I said, and then I started, I'd connected with somebody yesterday, so I was pretty early, but I was connecting back to make sure that, you know, we were talking about doing some things with the trees, and it was really amazing. Some new things that are coming up, working with the trees and doing a meditation. So that I wanted to send her some more information. So then I did. And then at some point, I got a message. And so I had an appointment this morning. And so they called me this morning and said, oh, you know, I need to cancel. And I said, you know, okay, that's fine, because I know that I've already 3 days in advance prepared my days. Started today 3 days ago for the energy of today. And I'm like, yes, I'm disappointed. But I just didn't allow myself to go any other further. I didn't allow myself to get into any kind of, how come they cancel on me? You know, any of that. And I will tell you, it was somebody that I was receiving services from. So, I mean, if that helps. It wasn't like someone I was providing services for. It was I was being provided services to. And I was like, you know what? I handle this gracefully. I'm going to turn this into something that's beneficial for me. And I'm feeling like that everything that happens is going to be something that I use to my benefit. Then right after that, I thought, you know, this image of a friend of mine came, and her and I do peer-to-peer healing sessions, and we get into our meditative energy, we get into our inner space together with our guidance, and we ask questions and we do healing for each other. And so we hadn't done that for a while because I've been sick, and there's a lot of stuff going on with the kids that made it hard to make plans, and I was afraid I was going to have to cancel them. So just kind of see how this all weaves together. But she was able to get back to me right away. And before I ever got out of bed, she's like, yes. So that, you know, there was a cancellation, and then there was like, but there's this energy. I know it's going to be really good. So I'm going to show up. Even if no one else showed up, I would have done like a healing session, or I would have done art. I'm working on some projects. I would have done something with that energy, because that energy is ready for us. Okay. So I would say if someone has to cancel for whatever reason, use that time for yourself. If you intended to do a healing, do a healing. If you intended to have a coaching session, maybe you sit down and you write everything out that you would do and coach for that person. That's very often what I do throughout my history of life. I show up and do what never needs to be done because I set aside that time and I need to show up for myself. So right after that, then I got this kind of this picture. Again, I hadn't really gone out and done anything in the house yet. I'm still in my room. And it's a picture of a person that I used to work with. Now, I didn't work with them directly, but I was part of a large facility. And there was one particular person, and I never thought of that person when I left or anything. But this morning, that person, I could see them standing there. I knew their name. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So I noticed it. And then, as happens, loved ones, ancestors, even people that are alive come, animals come, ascended masters would come. You know, there's so many people can come and visit us and give us information with that. We just stay open to that beneficial and be in a place of integrity and love and openness so that this can come through for us, right? So I thought, well, that is interesting. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a note of it. And so I never quite let it get out of my consciousness that I would forget. I kind of put a pin in it. I say like a push pin, old bulletin board, or put a sticky note. I put a sticky note in my consciousness and say, it doesn't need my full attention, but it's in my outer circle of attention. If my inner circle is bullseye is what I'm focusing on, then my outer circle it's around and orbiting, but I don't need to give it any more attention. I'm just relaxed with my awareness. So then I had another person, and this time I was reaching out to them because I had a message, and I asked them, is this your person? And what that prompted was them telling me that they weren't going to be able to have a session today as we planned. And they said no, they didn't know who that person was. So then I'm like, okay, I'm still going to hold that there person sticky note. We'll figure this out. And then this person who needed to reschedule told me what was going on, and there was just some things that were going on in the house that didn't allow them to show up for today. And so I went, okay, I think what I need to do then is I've set aside this session time for us in person, or not in person, but over the phone. Why don't I do a healing session for you? And they had said, well, there are some things that were going on. I said, well, let me just send the energy support, see what I could do, right? And when I say healing session, it's really sending out energy of support. There might be different messages that come in for individuals, and they're unique. They're always very unique. So I have different tools and techniques, and experiment with my own in a way of getting downloads. And so when I do a healing session, I open all those things that are possible, and then I allow that energy to come in and to be led what I need to do in that. So that was interesting. Here's this person, though. I still got this sticky note. So I'm like, okay. So things were happening in the house, and then I got to the first session that I had this morning with a person who we scheduled last minute, right? And we started a session, and it wasn't like an overwhelming feeling. It could have been, right? At times it has been. It wasn't like I felt an anxiety coming on, because recently I had an interaction that wasn't harmful, but there was a lot of energy come in, and it felt like anxiety registering in my nervous system. But then I'm telling you this because these are the things that fascinate me. I have a little communication with my inner guidance, because this particular image, this person was very patient, was non-dominant, was non-intrusive. It could have been something that I easily slipped away. Because if it has to be loud and intense, which is what I used to always say, make it shine, make it be really clear, make it be really loud. And in the beginning stages, it kind of needed to be so that I could see that it was important. But now this is the stages of refinement. And the stages of refinement is we tap into it to decide whether that's important or not. We are managing the boundaries. We are managing our area. We're saying yes or no to certain things. So I have also trained myself to pay attention to the calmness, to the don't look at appearances, look past the appearances, and look into the true energy that is manifesting. Not one of my teenagers screaming because their lack of preparedness becomes an emergency for me. That's kind of my mantra. Your lack of preparation does not dictate an emergency for me. So my realizing that I still get to be who I am, and I have these boundaries, especially with my teenagers, as you can imagine. So the person was still there. I'm like, I know you're still there, and I know you mean something. I just don't know where you fit into my day yet. So I ended up having the session, and I started the session, and I was like, in the beginning, we just started talking about what is the questions, what's going on. And I said, okay, wait. I had to go back before we start. And I said, I have this vision, this experience from when I used to work. And this person, I'm really glad, because people don't always, it could be an accurate perception, but sometimes people, they may be not in a place to receive it, or they're not thinking I'm going to ask them a question when they're wanting to know, a specific question about work or about love or about family. And so they listened, and right away they said that what you're describing sounds like this. Sounds like this. And what happened was, the name was a foreign name to me, but the name that I came up with was a name that was similar. And I'll tell you that I did sit there and I sat there and just to receive that message like it's a picture, like it's a video coming in. Like this was like a video, and it showed this person, it showed their name tag, it showed what they did. And so I was like, I think it has to do with the name of the person, though I wasn't sure, right? So this is the other thing, is but we have to know ourselves enough to know that when we're receiving information and sharing that with an individual, to only share what is there, not more and not less. And this just keeps happening over and over and over again. Now, this person was somebody very close to them, and it was really a beautiful message that came through. And actually, it was like energy, and it was love, and it was assistance more than it was anything verbal. And it was just something I felt this person really needed. And I personally was in deep gratitude to my friend and for their relatives to come forward, because I said to, her beautiful spirit, thank you so much for helping me today, because my true desire is only to give, messages that are helpful, and I just don't connect with anybody. But when they come through in a session or in a reading, then it's just absolutely meant to be. And she did such a brilliant job of giving me her name, and it was, I always say it's a little bit like, do you know the word password? The Password, a really old game show, where you have to give person clues to get a word. Most of it is verbal, but Pictionary, right? There's a lot of drawing games. It's like that kind of a situation, but you're doing that with this energy. And the more that I trust myself and I clear everything out, so then I know that anything that comes up, no matter how random or how silly, it is just, my job is to describe it. It's not to interpret it. And with my inner guidance right now, a lot of my inner guidance says, I know people want you to interpret it, because, people want answers. People have lost loved ones. I'm going to just say, like, can't even believe I'm talking about this a lot, because, like, this is not my specialty. But I have to say, I have so many spiritual brothers and sisters and loved ones on the other side that when they left, I would do prayers for them, and they would respond to me, and they were healers and teachers in their life. They were creators and lovers and earth healers, and it's the same thing I do. And so I never meant to keep that connection going. I didn't even know what was possible. When I was 25 years old, over 25 years ago, I did not know what was possible. And it came just purely from saying, what can I do to help? What can I do to heal? What can I do to heal my grief? What can I do to heal their grief? And then it was just an idea that someone had presented to me, that our loved ones in spirit, especially spiritual teachers and healers, can come in and help us do our work. And so that is just what happened. That door was just open. And it's just been a natural part of my life. It's not anything that I ever would want to go and do full time, for many reasons. But when it does happen again, I'm really grateful. I'm really glad that she was able to show up last minute. I'm glad that she was able to pause for a moment and give me that information and connect with this loved one. Because again, it may happen, but they may not tell you. And it's not it's just, you have to let that go. There could be 1,000 reasons why they're not able to communicate. So that's why we can't rely. I know it seems so weird, but you cannot rely on other people to dictate your accuracy. Your accuracy is your accuracy. And it could go the other way, where someone could just be like, oh yeah, you know, they agree with you, but they don't really resonate, but they have a block. And so the block is they don't want to seem like they're not as intuitive as they are. And the truth is, maybe they're very intuitive, but they have this false tool that keeps them from realizing how intuitive they are. Does that make sense? Like, I pretend I'm more intuitive than what I am, but you know what? The truth is, I'm probably really intuitive, and I just won't allow myself to sink or swim and have that experience. So then what else happened? So I want to say that that's the main thing I'm going to do. I see this video is almost 30 minutes already. So what are some of the parts to dissect about that? Well, first of all, the person who, yes. Okay. Okay. So there was the last person who had canceled because they just weren't able to be there, and they knew it. And it was really nice because they reached out and said, I'm not able to. And they said, I've got this thing going on. I'm like, you know, the universe always shows up. I think what is meant to be is a healing session. And I hadn't offered that at first. I do offer that. And okay, well then this is what's coming up for you. This is our time together, and that's going to be a healing session. It's going to be like a prayer session, if you want to think about it. It's a long distance. So I said, okay, so I did a session for them. And again, doing the kind of healing that ascension process really brings forward is really intuitive healing. It's aligned healing. It's me aligned with myself, aligning you with yourself, connecting in a beautiful inner space together that's just for this time of healing. And then whatever comes up is exactly what is meant to come up. It's not a set program. It's not a set thing. And it probably has components of that. So I want to tell you the result. So the result of it was that I had sent them just a few notes. I knew they weren't feeling great, and I didn't want to overwhelm them with information. And so I just kind of like, well, what are the priorities, and kind of fell into it. What's the significant things that happened? And so I just shared the significant things that happened. And I'm just going to say this way, that I had said something to them, and I said, oh, this is something about your spine. And I said a particular place on the spine. And it just related to something that I saw, a symbol, and it related to that aspect of the spine. And they did not tell me where their pain was on their spine. And they sent me a note and said, yeah, that's exactly where it is. So it was really beautiful. Again, I'm really glad they shared with me, and we're open to have a healing session instead. I'm really glad that they received that information, and they were able to tell me, oh my gosh, that aligns exactly with what I said, even though neither one of us had communicated it. But again, people may or may not tell you, and that's okay. So that's why you have to trust your inner guidance. And this is why we do healing on ourselves. Where do we prove that these things work? On ourselves. Where do we fine-tune these techniques? On ourselves. With ourselves or with another practitioner, but there is no way that we can take another's experience and use that as validity for what we do. And I know some people are gonna be like, that makes no sense. And I'm like, I know, because this is completely different than anything we've ever done before. We don't have to prove anything to anybody. There are some people that we are going to align with and who align with us, and there'll be a good healing because they feel safe. There are some people who are great healers, but if you do not feel safe with them, it is not on them. It is really not on you. It's just on you to align with your safety and pick someone else, because there will be someone else out there that you feel safe with. So I just want to end and say that, and I hope I've answered some of the questions, but I feel like in so many ways I probably brought up more questions, and that really is the nature of growth. That is the nature of healing. We are not here to put things in stone. We are here to embrace and to keep moving forward and to do things differently than we've done them before. Thank you. Namaste.